So my first question for you is, do you believe the Earth is flat?
It depends on the day, I would say. It's such a fascinating thing to me. I wonder if those guys like Kyrie Irving, does he really think that? Or is he just messing with
It's
people?
funny you bring up Kyrie because I'll ask this later, but I was listening to a podcast, JJ Redick's podcast, which I do recommend listening to that since you're a basketball guy.
Yep.
And he had Kyrie on, and the very first thing he asked him was about this flat Earth. And he's like, man, I go to Instagram and I see all these videos, and I'm like, they just got to be true. I don't think he said actually, but they're true, but it was just like he's getting his facts from Instagram, and it's just like, but he then went on to the point of like, well, it really just makes you think, and it makes you want to do your own research, which that's a great mindset to have on a lot of things.
Yes.
I don't know if we need to have it on if the Earth is flat when there's NASA going to space and there's scientific evidence. But
yes, it's a good point, but in the same token, if he does his research, he'll find mounds of evidence proving
yes.
flat.
So, do you listen to podcasts?
I do.
Which ones do you listen to?
Oh, recently, so I've always been a listener of Freakonomics, which is like cool economic stories, kind of a nerdy one.
Nothing wrong with that.
Recently, I've been listening to Joe Rogan. I had like a handful of buddies all say independently, like, "Hey, Joe Rogan's a cool one to listen to." So he just like he'll go for like maybe 2 hours at a time. It seems like every day or a couple of days, just interviews random people. And yeah, it's just really fascinating. Like he has tons of different interests in like health and the sciences, and he does the MMA thing. And I listened to one with Mel Gibson, who is a crazy person.
Mm-hmm. This is the Joe Rogan podcast with Mel Gibson.
Yes, okay. It is the Joe Rogan podcast with Mel Gibson, and he brought on this like doctor that he had worked with, and he was telling these stories about this doctor. This doctor was telling these stories he works in Panama, and they work with like stem cells from embryonic cord or whatever, the cord that cut off the baby when they're born.
Umbilical.
Oh,
something. I don't even know the word.
Words. But they use these things, and like they have all these stories of these people who come in that are like on their deathbed or like really bad pain or whatever, and they inject these cells, and then they're like 20 years younger suddenly.
Oh wow!
It's not legal in the United States. Wink, wink. But it's just really interesting stuff.
Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, my go-to. I listen to a lot of bad Christian podcasts. They're just three dudes. Two of them are in a band that toured around. They are pretty successful, and then they call themselves Christians, but they're they like go by premise of nobody's a good Christian, so always bad. And they're always like challenging. And one is actually a pastor, and I really recommend it. One of those that gets me to think too. Mm-hmm. And it's really I should do my own research about certain stuff, but I don't. So I always have a little caution when I listen to them. And then also I've found Bill Simmons' podcast. You ever listen to him? Mm-hmm. And you'd probably like him because he's a basketball guy too.
Bill's one of my favorite people in
He's
the world.
really cool dude. He's a real cool dude.
Yeah.
And then JJ Redick has one. He did an interview with I haven't listened to it, Joel Embiid, and then he had I listened to one with Kat, Carl Towns, and then also Kyrie was a very interesting one. Kyrie actually hearing that the whole flat earth thing was a little like, well, really, why do you think that? But then listening to him talk the whole time, it's actually not as dumb as people think. But,
I think he's an intelligent person.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of me thinks that he's just kind of faking it. Or just trying to spur a conversation, play the media a bit, but it's, I don't know.
Yeah. All right, Travis, where were you born?
I was born in Waterloo, Iowa.
How long ago was that?
A long time ago. 25 and a half years.
When did you live in Denver?
So I lived in a small town nearby, Denver, called Reedland, for till I was 7 or 8, and then I moved in 3rd grade. I moved over to Denver, which was 8 miles away in the rival school. So it took me a few years to understand that no, you can't continue to cheer for the Wapsie Valley Warriors. You have to cheer for the Denver Cyclones now. But we got it sorted out eventually.
How often would you say Denver, and people would assume Colorado. Like when I heard about your name for the first time from Court, he's from Denver, and I'm like, Colorado.
Yeah, I only, if anybody ever asked me that is not, if I'm not like in Cedar Falls or like the Northeast Iowa area,
Yeah.
I have to say Denver, Iowa.
Yeah.
Nobody has any clue.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
It's fun that it's known as the mile wide city because it's literally like point to point, it's about a mile. So I can introduce it as mile.
How many people live in the town, and how many people did you graduate high school with?
2000 graduated with 58 or 59.
And in your like sports conference, was that a big school, small school, or in the middle?
Right in the middle, I would say. We had probably 2 or 3 schools that were quite a bit bigger, and then a couple schools that were a decent amount smaller.
What sports did you play in high school?
I played basketball and golf.
What was your first memory of playing a sport? Didn't have to be basketball or golf, but like just playing, whether it was in the backyard with dad or like, and not like watching or playing video games, like actually playing. Like, what's one of the first ones that come to your mind?
Most recent,
it may not be your first one, but like a good one.
Yeah. Gosh, that's a good question.
Like for me, when I played football with Jake and Dad in our living room, and Dad was on his knees. That was the first thing that comes to my mind. And we would run at him full speed, and he would act like he's getting demolished, and then there'd be times where he would just plow us over.
One of them that's coming to mind for me was one of the first days that we were living in Denver, I think. So it would have been the summer before 3rd grade. And we went to the park so Travis could meet some friends, right?
Yeah.
And played some hoops with some kids that I don't even think I knew their names, at the end of it. I got done playing with these guys and went back to my mom, and she's like, oh, who were you playing? I was like, oh, I don't know, but we were playing something. And they wound up being 3 of my best buddies in high school, and a couple of them I still talk to regularly, and they were at my wedding.
That's funny. That's
all
cool.
That, so.
So in high school, you played basketball and golf. Which one did you like more?
I guess basketball.
They're different. I mean,
they're very different. Golf has always been a love-hate relationship for me. When I'm playing it well, it is. I don't know that there's anything sweeter than a nice golf swing.
Right.
But that's few and far between, and I had a lot of challenges with that in high school. So probably basketball. That was a little more consistent for me.
Weren't you a state participant in golf?
I was, not because of me. I finished 68th out of 69 competitors, but I did have a birdie. I made like a 60-foot putt for a birdie.
Hey, you got that. You got that. It's like me saying I was a contributor to the team in baseball when I had 1 home run, and that was about it. What position did you play in basketball?
It was like the 3 guard, I guess. Guard, forward, kind of did a little bit of everything.
What were you the best at? What was your favorite? If they're not the same.
I was a 3-point shooter primarily. I weighed, not that I weigh much now, but I weighed about 150 pounds, soaking wet in high school.
So you didn't have much weight to throw around.
So, but the other downside of that, though, I was the tallest starter on the team.
Oh, wow.
So, like, I did jump balls fairly often and led the team in blocks. Averaged about a block a game my senior year, if I remember right. But, yeah, I couldn't muscle with the big guys down low. So, I did a lot of shooting. Some days were good, some days were bad. I think I hit 5 3-pointers in a game. I think that was the best I ever did.
Is that the most points you've had in a game?
Yeah, I had 19 in that game, and we were playing a team that we should have beat by probably 15 or 20, and we only beat them by like 5. So it was important that I actually had a good game for once. Yeah. But I was pissed about it because my buddy, who was the highest scorer on the team, and he played college ball, he outscored me because he had like 15 free throws. So I was all excited about 19 points, and he scored like 25 or something.
That's funny. Where did you guys have success playing basketball?
Yeah, we my senior year we went 19-6, 19-5, I think. Ran into a buzzsaw in the playoffs. We had to play Wapsie, our rival, Wapsie Valley. So the way it worked out, they were really good and we were really good. I think they finished 2nd in conference and we finished 3rd. But the way the seeding worked, you got seeded based on your middle 10 games of your season, what your record was, and we both went 9-1. But they had beaten us for one of their games. and I'll never forget, they were going into their 10th game for the seeding. They played the number one team in state at home, and the foul count was like 30-4 in favor of Wapsie. So they won because the coach had the refs in the bag, which I very much believe. I'm not jealous. So anyway, so they got that. So they got the top or the higher seeding in the playoffs, and then we had to play them there, and we weren't able to beat them there. So
that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
So then, once your high school career, just education was done, what was your why? I mean, I know you ended up going to UNI. I don't know if that was your first choice. Were there any other choices? Did you get any offers to play any basketball or golf?
Oh, so many offers for basketball.
Beat them down with a stick.
Gosh, it always makes me laugh. Like you hear kids from time to time that are like, you hear the senior night stuff, and they're like the sixth best player on their team, and like, oh yeah, they want to go play college basketball. And I think like, oh, that could have been me. Like I could have stuck out and played JUCO.
Right. Yeah. Gone to D3 somewhere. Yeah.
No.
They probably like me.
No scholarship offers for me. Yeah, I looked at UNI and Drake in Des Moines, and Wartburg in Waverly, all for math. Because again, nerd path was a better path for me. UNI was ultimately just kind of the right fit. Drake was too old. Wartburg was too new and too small. Wartburg was like about the same size as my high school.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't want to know everybody at my college.
Oh, yeah.
It seemed a little too cliquey. So UNI was a good mix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How many students are at UNI undergrad, do you know?
11,000, 10,000 maybe. I think it's like maybe a third the size of a typical, big public university like a University of Iowa or like a Minnesota or something.
Yeah, I think Jackrabbits I think it's 12 or 13. I think it was around there. So
it should be pretty comparable.
And since we played them in sports too.
Mm-hmm.
So let's jump into Court. What was your very first memory of Courtney?
Very first memory of Courtney was we were downtown Cedar Falls, just a very riveting area, tons of nightlife, and it was Sturgis Falls weekend, so that's like the town's celebration for Cedar Falls, and I was out with some buddies, and we were walking back to our car, and she was with a couple of friends walking the other direction, and one guy in our group knew her and another girl in their group. So he started talking to the other girl, and that left me and a buddy with Courtney and one of her friends, Mickey. And so I think it was Mickey, either Mickey or Brenna. But she struck up a conversation because, she was more likely to strike up a conversation than Travis was. And the first thing she says is hi. We say exchange names, whatever. And then she says, "Oh, where are you from?" And I say Denver, and I kid you not, the very first comment she gives to me is, "Oh, did you know everybody hates Denver?" Everybody hates Denver. So I was like, great, this is such a lovely girl that I'm meeting here. But no, it was good. And then we talked for a little bit, went about our way. And then the next morning, I went out for my post-hangover run to, get the juices out, and ran a couple miles, and I was headed back to my house, which was kind of by campus. And lo and behold, Courtney is coming out of a house to go to church. And she's like 20 yards away from me. So we see each other, and we're both like, "Oh, I just met you last night," whatever. So that was kind of a God
let me
thing,
ask.
right?
So after you guys parted ways the first night, what was your impression of her? What was your thought about her? Did you know you were going to marry her right then and there?
Probably not. If I let the Denver comment go away for now. No, I thought she was cute, and it was interesting, and obviously it was easy to talk to. So I mean, we talked for like 2 minutes, so no big deal. But then I think seeing her the next morning was really like, oh, I think is God trying to tell me something? This doesn't seem like a coincidence.
Did you know that she lived there?
No, I had no idea.
So then, because isn't there a story about how you guys were either bags or pong partners?
Yes.
Was that later down the road?
So that was a couple weeks later. So I was interning at Principal Financial Group in Des Moines at the time, where I work now. So I'd been up there.
Interrupt. what year in school were you when you first met her? So it was a summer, right?
Yep. We were going into our senior year.
Gotcha.
So yes, we were both 21. It was okay to have a little alcohol
and have a hangover. Yep.
yeah,
okay.
and have a hangover. So I went back to Des Moines, and then a couple weeks later came back up for the weekend. Excuse me. And we were gonna have some friends over, whatever. As we do when you bunch of boys living in a house. And
Amen, brother.
I had told Luke, my friend who knew Courtney, I was like, "Hey, what about that Courtney girl? You think I know she lives close? Like,
because I stalk her.
Yeah, because I saw her the next morning, and now I stalk her. Maybe we should invite her over, whatever." And Luke thought it was a great idea, so he got a hold of Courtney, and she came over with. She came over by herself actually originally because her friend that was going to come with her hadn't gotten back from like work or something. So she came over, and then eventually Mickey showed up, her friend, and we played bags. And I remember as we're playing, it's fairly contested game. It's me and Courtney against Mickey and my friend Luke. And I remember it's pretty tight, and we're kind of getting to the end, and she turns to me and she goes, "We're not losing this game. I don't lose."
That's hilarious.
And I said, "Okay, ma'am, we're not going to lose." And sure enough, we won. We're both very
so that's when
competitive
you
people. And that's where I was like, all right, she's game for a game. I'm in.
That's funny. So how did you guys ever become official? What was that like?
It was a couple weeks after that. I guess it would have been more like a month. So that would have been like early, mid-July. And then we kept talking, kind of back and forth, and I would see her when I'd come back on the weekends. And then I came back, internship ended, I came back for school, and right before school started, we were sitting in my backyard at that rental house. There was kind of like a porch and like a fire pit and stuff back there. And we were just talking, whatever, and we kind of looked at each other and like, well, I like this, and you like this, like, so what do we call it? And decided we'd kind of go from there, and then we got married.
Tell me about how you proposed, how that all went down.
How I proposed. So fast forward, a year and a half. Courtney just graduated college. I'm working, and we're going to go to Florida for a spring break trip with some of my family. And we're going to drive down there. And I've decided at this point that I'm going to pop the question and have the ring. I didn't know this at the time, but she had seen a picture on my phone, so she knew I had the ring.
But she didn't know when it was coming. But
she didn't know when it was coming.
She knew it was coming.
But she knew she had accidentally seen a picture I'd forgotten to delete. Sounds classic Travis. And so she knew it might be coming at some point. And my plan with this was we were going to drive down to Florida, and we were going to take off at like 5 a.m, and I was just going to pull over on the side of the road somewhere, and we were going to watch the sunrise, and I was going to pop the question and be super romantic.
That's like, when you explain it to me, that sounds good. That sounds like a good way to do it.
Yeah, like, she was going to know what was going on because we've literally never stopped and watched the sunset rise before, and we haven't done it since. But it seemed like a good idea in my mind, so that's what I was going to go with. I get to Hudson, is where she's living, the day before we're going to leave, and she's got the flu bug. She's not feeling well, not doing very well, goes to sleep early. So we push back our plans. So we decide not to leave until maybe 8 or 9 a.m. And I'm like, crap, what do I do now? I'm not going to be able to, I have this ring in my pocket. I can't, like, wait. Like, I'm sure you know how that is. Once you have it, you want to give it to us as soon as possible.
I had to drive 3 hours. Well, I mean, I got it like 2 weeks before, and then I drive 3 hours with it in my pocket, and Taylor in the car with me.
Yeah, it's just the worst. So I got up early that morning at like maybe 6:30, and I went and got some coffees, and I woke her up at about 7. I was like, hey, how are you feeling? She's like, oh, I'm feeling a little better, whatever. I was like, hey, do you want to go on a drive with me? So alarm bells going off in her head. She's like, something's happening here. But she goes along with it. She's like, okay, sure, fine. So we went out maybe a mile or two outside of Hudson into the country, out onto a gravel road, and same thing, sunrise, sun's still rising, whatever. Got out of my car, she got out. I asked her to come over to my side. She's like, no, I'm good over here. Because she's totally messing with me at this point. But she eventually came over, and I proposed out on that gravel road. And she thankfully said yes. And we took some pictures and all of that. And then a car stopped on the side of the road coming into town and asked us if we needed help, because apparently it's not common for people to just park on a gravel road and 7 o'clock in the morning.
That is true. That's funny.
So that was kind of funny. And then we drove to Florida that day and basically planned our entire wedding on that car drive.
Yeah, because then you guys got married freaking 3 months later, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we figured out reception halls and
that's funny.
Who was gonna marry us and where we were gonna do that and all of that good stuff. So
you guys and my sister, they all planned that out real quick.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now let's be done with the personal stuff. Or I forgot. I'm gonna do two more things. What I need to ask you: what professional and I can say collegiate teams do you follow?
Okay.
All the sports.
All the sports.
Starting with the Australian rugby leagues.
Okay, Australian rugby. Well, I'm more of a New Zealand rugby guy. I love the dance they do before the game. I'm a big Australian cricket fan.
Is this everyone? Get on the.
I couldn't even tell you how cricket goes. I don't even know how the sport's played.
Favorite NFL football team?
NFL football team, the Los Angeles Rams.
Why the hell the Los Angeles Rams?
Because they used to be the St. Louis Rams, and Kurt Warner used to play for the St. Louis Rams.
Yes, he did.
And Kurt Warner used to be a grocery store bagger in Cedar Falls, and 9-year-old Travis thought that was pretty cool.
That is very cool. I forgot about that. So then you guys had pretty successful season this year. Was it? I think is better than what you were expecting, wasn't it?
A million times better than what I was expecting. Yeah. Now I'm too excited for the next season. It's been probably 15 years since I've been excited for a Rams season.
And that's funny because you're only 25 years old.
I know. They won a Super Bowl, and then they made the Super Bowl a couple years later, and then they've been hot garbage ever since.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it's fun to watch. I've noticed that I've rooted for them mostly because I don't like Seattle, and I'm over them winning all the time. Like, I'm ready for someone else, but I'm sure in a few years when they keep winning, I'll probably get sick of them too.
Yes. How are you handling the Vikings?
It hurts.
Aftermath.
It was, and one of those. I don't know if it was better that they just got demolished versus they lost a heartbreaker like the Saints lost.
Yeah.
Because, and I was talking in my other podcast, my other Travis I was talking to, he said he wasn't expecting, because it was such a high after that. Like, how the hell do you recreate that energy and that drive?
Right.
But the thing is, the first drive of the game,
they scored.
That did. I'm like, all right, we're gonna do it. Yeah. We're gonna win 38-7.
It was destiny.
We're gonna. I just remind myself that it's a dumb, stupid game, and then that usually helps me. And then I just don't care.
So, are you gonna watch the Super Bowl? Do you feel bad about it?
I'll watch. Well, the one thing that's killing me is, so I follow a lot of like Minnesota sports stars, like Carl Towns, Jimmy Butler, and then a bunch of Vikings, a bunch of Twins, and they're doing so much stuff in Minneapolis right now. Like, they're all getting like interviews and stuff, and it just seems like it's so cool. And I'm like, damn, I wish that they were gonna actually play and not, So yeah, I'll watch. I'm bummed, but I'll get over it.
Yeah.
I don't. Matt, who are you rooting for? Who do you think's gonna win?
I really don't have a rooting interest this time around. I typically don't, outside of the Rams and outside of fantasy football.
Mm-hmm.
I just like to watch the game, and I'll enjoy seeing the commercials, see what people come up with.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Patriots will win. I think there's something maybe you could say I'm rooting for the Patriots in a kind of way. There's something about greatness I really enjoy watching, and love or hate Tom Brady, he's a great football player. He's one of the greatest.
Yeah, and because I remember last year at the Super Bowl, 2083. I'm like, you can't, you cannot count out Tom Brady. You just can't. There's just no way. And they're saying how good this defense is and how underdogs the Eagles are. But it's Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. They're gonna find a way. Right. They won the Super Bowl last year without Gronk, and now they're gonna have him back, but they don't have Edelman. But they've done just as good without him, and it's frustrating that they.
Yep. I'll be curious to see. I read a really interesting article on The Ringer on Bill Simmons' website about, I forget who wrote it, but he talked about the Patriots conditioning and just like how much energy and time they put into running hills and like running game type scenarios. Like for D linemen, maybe it's like a 15-yard sprint because they don't really have to do much outside of that. But they do that over and over and over because then when they get to the fourth quarter games, like they're down 28-3, they're playing the same game they've been playing the entire time versus other teams that might get tired, get worn down. It's just fascinating how they do that.
Do you follow baseball at all?
Not so much. I would be a Cubs fan, I guess, just by association with friends, and Courtney's kind of picked up the Cubs a little bit in the last couple of years. But
because the Iowa Cubs are in Des Moines, right?
Iowa Cubs are in Des Moines, and they're fun to go to a game or two in the summer they're like $5,
Oh yeah.
I can do that.
I'm actually looking forward to in Cedar Rapids Colonels. They're the Twins like low A.
Oh really?
And like actually like we have like some like so Byron Buxton. I don't know if you know these guys' names. Byron Buxton and Jose Barrios or Barrios. I don't even know how to say his last name. He played with them, and and then they're doing well in the pros right now. I'm definitely going to go to a few games of those. But
you might see the next guy.
Yeah. We drafted a guy. I don't know if it was last year or two ago. Royce Williams or Royce Lewis, Royce something. I don't know. And I'm great.
You'll find him.
Great fan here, and I guess I don't know if he's there anymore, but I know he was there last year, and he actually did really well. So that's exciting. But
nice.
So we've talked about it before. Basketball. What is your favorite team for basketball?
The Detroit Basketball Pistons.
And why the Detroit Basketball Pistons?
Well, when I was a young, very influenced individual, probably 8 or 9, I should really say, too, when I moved to Denver and met some of those buddies, that's when I really got into sports. I dropped the Pokemon, was like, all right, I got to like basketball and football and stuff. Maybe didn't fully drop the Pokemon, but still did that. And so I liked basketball at the time, so I knew I needed to pick a team. Detroit they were getting better. I think they were a playoff team when I started liking them. And then a couple years later, they won a championship.
I was going to say, that was right around like Chauncey Billups, Ben Wallace, Rip Hamilton.
Yep, exactly.
Rasheed Wallace, remember him in there too?
Yep, they made a trade for Rasheed and upset that dynasty Lakers team with Karl Malone and Shaq and Kobe and Gary Payton.
I forgot about Karl and Gary.
Loaded.
I forgot about those two guys. I of course knew.
But yeah, so with that team, they had a player, Ben Wallace, who was like 6'9", just like a truck of a man, super jacked, terrible basketball skills, but a fantastic rebounder and defender. And I was getting into basketball, and I was probably the most uncoordinated kid on the floor. But I was tall and long, so I could block shots, and I could rebound the ball. So I really associated with that guy, even though I wound up being a three-point shooter in high school.
Yeah, but it's funny. Completely opposite of what Ben is. But
yeah, I stuck with that, I guess. And it helped that once I became a fan, they were good for a long time, for maybe 5 or 6 years.
I would say they were always a contender.
I think they made the Eastern Conference Finals like 6 years in a row.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But they've also fallen on hard times.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But I mean, you as of late, you have something to look up forward to. Someone asked before the Blake Griffin trade, how were they doing?
So they started the year pretty well. They were maybe like the 2 or 3 seed after the first 20 games in the East. And then the point guard Reggie Jackson got hurt. Maybe 15 games ago, and there's something like 3-12 since.
Ooh.
So they quickly moved, and they were hovering around 500 before that. So they've moved to be like the 9 or 10 seed right now.
Okay.
Yes, but then Blake Griffin, the potential savior, has arrived.
Who were you afraid of who you gave up? Do you think it'll be benefit for Detroit?
Yeah, it'll be a benefit. So they gave up Tobias Harris, who was a starter and the best scorer on the team thus far this year. I wouldn't argue the best player, but the best scorer. They traded Avery Bradley, who was a starting shooting guard, but was playing terrible. He was really good for the Celtics last year, but he's been terrible this year. They gave up a first-round draft pick, which hurts, and I think a second-round pick. And they gave up one of my favorite cult players. His name's Boban Marjanovic.
Isn't he the huge nose?
Yes,
he's played for the
7'3".
He's played for the Spurs.
Yes, for the Spurs.
Boban.
7'3", like 300 pounds.
Do you know where he's from?
Some Eastern European
we
country.
can look it up.
Yeah, like
you listening?
Serbia
go look up
something.
Boban. Yeah.
The Boban. And he is, if you look it up, he's the most efficient scorer in NBA history.
What does that mean?
He averaged, like, per shot, he averages, like, 1.6 points. So basically, he either scores or gets fouled every single time he puts up shot. But he's so slow that they can't play him for very long because other teams will substitute in, like, shooters and slashers and stuff.
And
he gets killed on defense because he can't defend the pick and roll. So he only plays, like, 10 minutes a game. But I loved him, and now he's gone. But yeah, I think Blake, for these guys, I think he makes their upside better. I think he makes them a better team this year, assuming he stays healthy.
Which it sounds like that's going to be the biggest.
Yes, he's kind of lost some of his athleticism in the last couple of years with nagging injuries and stuff. He's like 28. He's got a huge contract, so like 5 years from now, that could be pretty scary if we're paying 32-year-old Blake Griffin with 2 bum knees $30 million a year or whatever. But I think he makes them better now, and I think he gives them a chance to compete. If the whole thing meshes, if him and the point guard Reggie Jackson, the center Andre Drummond, who's an all-star, it's kind of like what they had with the Clippers with Lob City, except Jackson's not nearly as good as Chris Paul, and Drummond is like, he's probably as good as DeAndre Jordan, but in a different way. He's kind of a different skill set. But they could be like the fifth best team in the East.
Yeah, I mean, but the question is, can they beat Cleveland, Toronto, or Celtics in a 7-game series?
I don't know about Boston. I mean, the way people talk about Cleveland right now, I think anybody could beat Cleveland.
Yes.
Which, granted, they're still a good team. They still have LeBron.
Yeah, they're still going to make playoffs, and I'm willing to bet once playoffs hits, they're going to get in
they're going to be fine.
groove. And
but yeah, I think they could compete with them. I don't know if they'll beat them, but I think I think there's a good chance they'll win a playoff series. And to be honest, with the coach, Stan Van Gundy's also the general manager, so he makes the personnel decisions. I mean, he did this to kind of like try to save his job, because if they miss the playoffs again this year, he was going to be on the hot seat. They might be thinking about moving on from him. So it's totally a play of like, if it works out, he's going to stick around. If it doesn't work out, he's going to get fired anyways. So what does he care if the team becomes like a heaping pile of crap? So we'll see. We could go a couple different ways here.
Who's your so you probably say your favorite player of all time is Ben Wallace? Yeah. Who's your favorite player right now?
Yes. I mean, I love Boban. I mean, I love watching LeBron. I'm gonna say all the star players probably. Right, I love watching Steph Curry for the different things he can do, and I probably associate better with him in terms of the shooting I love watching Clay. Like, I think those 3 guys, when they have it going, those are the 3 most fun guys to watch. Like I'll never forget like a couple years ago when Clay had like, I think it was 37 points in a quarter.
Yep, I remember that. That was ridiculous.
It was just, you could see like the fire shooting out of his head. Besides that, I don't know. Depends on the night.
Do you pay attention now that you're living in Minnesota, or half the time or whatever, about the Timber Pups?
I've paid a little bit of attention. I haven't watched any games, but I know Jake loves them.
Jake doesn't miss one. It's freaking ridiculous.
Yeah, so I had to give him a little grief about the other night. Jeff Teague had a bad game for
him.
That
was terrible.
Yeah, I heard that. So
I watched a video. It was someone made a low light video. They showed every turnover, every missed shot, and all the times he messed up on defense. He was bad. He
was like 1 for 10. He had like a 5-second violation at the end of the game.
All right, one last question and we'll wrap it up. Not about sports. What is your favorite thing about Courtney?
Favorite thing about Courtney?
I mean, I'm sure you have.
There are
multiple.
Of course, there are lots. The first thing that pops to my head is that she's just a competitor. Honestly, I love playing games. I love competing in things, and I love knowing that whenever she's involved, I can and have to give my all on whatever I'm doing. She kind of brings the best out of me,
That's hilarious. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's definitely what Courtney is.
Like, I would absolutely hate if she was the type that like needed to have, like, obviously she loves to win, but it would kill her more if I let her win than if she
her winning out.
Than
right?
her winning.
Yep.
Yes. So like, And I would hate that if I had to sandbag a little bit just to let her win every now and then. Absolutely would hate that. So that's the thing that always pops up. Obviously, there's thousands of other things I could speak to, but
yeah, good answer.